from Esther 4, 6 to 14, and the focus text is taken from Esther 4, 13 to 14. Our words of wisdom for today. Divine responsibilities comes at God's appointed time, and so God places us strategically in such a time as this. Divine responsibilities comes at God's appointed time, and so God places us strategically for such a time as this. Further reading, Ecclesiastes 3, 1 and Galatians 6, verse 2. Please go with me quickly to Esther 4, 6 to 14, the King James Version I read. Esther 4, 6 to 14. So Hathach went to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. Verse 7. And Mordecai told him of all that has happened unto him, and the sum of money that Haman has promised to pay to the king's treasury for the Jews to be destroyed. 8. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Susan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for our people. Verse 9. And Hathach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Verse 10. Again Esther spake unto Hathach, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai. Verse 11. All the king's servants and the people of the king's province do know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called there is a law to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I haven't been called to come in unto the kings these 30 days. Verse 12. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, not within thyself, that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then there are enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and the father's house shall be destroyed. And who knows whether thou hast come to the kingdom in such a time as this? Verse 14. Who knows whether thou hast come to the kingdom in such a time as this? From the key points from Esther 4, 6, 14, shows Esther turning point from courage, from fear to courage, as she recognized her divine responsibility to act on behalf of our people. And so using Esther as a case study, how should we respond to the call of divine responsibility? Using Esther as a case study, how should believers respond to the call of divine responsibility? First of all, what is divine responsibility? Divine responsibility, it is God's assignment placed in humans' hand to fulfill heavenly purpose on earth. I take it again. Divine responsibility, it is God's assignment that is placed in human hands to fulfill heavenly purpose on earth. For example, Esther's divine responsibility was to make sure, he protects the Jews from destruction. His sole responsibility was to protect the Jewish nation from destruction. Moses was another one. What was Moses' responsibility? Moses' divine responsibility was to make sure he delivered the Israelites from the Egyptian slavery and then lead them to the land of Canaan. And what was the responsibility of Joseph? Joseph's divine responsibility was to preserve his people and to preserve other nations from famine. What was Nehemiah's responsibility? His divine responsibility was to make sure to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. What of Apostle Paul's divine responsibility? Apostle Paul's divine responsibility was to make sure, to spread the gospel to the Gentiles. To spread the gospel to the Gentiles. And so it is our civic responsibilities to make sure we do what we are supposed to do. And so point number 1, using Esther as a case study, you have to recognize God's timing. You have to recognize God's timing. Esther recognized the timing of God. What is God's timing? God's timing means the appointed time, the perfect time, the sovereign moment when God chooses to fulfill His promises to come to pass in our life. God's timing is the appointed time, the set time, the perfect time, the sovereign moment that God chooses to perform His promises to come to pass in our lives. God's timing is the alignment with God's calendar. God's timing never comes too early, never comes too late. God's timing is perfect. God's timing is flawless. God's timing is good. It's without stain. It's without fault. It's without imperfection. Please go with me to Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11. It says, He has made everything beautiful in His time. He has made everything beautiful in His time. God's timing is different from the timing of man. Please go with me to 2 Peter 3 verse 8. 2 Peter 3 verse 8. It said, one day is with the Lord 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. One day is with the Lord 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. To God, 1,000 years is one day. To us, we feel 1,000 years is too much, and that is just one day to the Lord. And so God's timing requires patience and faith. Habakkuk 2:3 says, though it tarries, every vision has an appointed time. Though it tarries, wait for it, but it must surely come to friction. It must surely come to actualization. It must surely come to manifestation. And so we must be patient with God's timing. God's positioned us to fulfill destiny. And so it is vitally important for us to wait for timing. And so divine responsibility is not about convenience, but about God's timing and purpose. Esther was placed in the place not by accident, but by God's divine providence. Mordecai reminded her, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom in such a time like this? Esther realized the royal position, that it was not by luck, but by divine placement. God often calls us at a crucial time. She realized her position. She didn't allow the position to carry her away. She realized the position and she walked on the time. The timing is very, very important. And so every believer is placed in a community, in a family for a purpose, for a nation for a purpose. What will be our response in our day-to-day life? What will be our response in our day-to-day life? God placed you in that marriage for a purpose. God placed you in that marriage to raise godly children. God placed you in that business so that you can bring people from poverty to prosperity and showcase God through integrity. God put you in that ministry for a reason. God put you in that teaching ministry for a reason, to win souls for God's kingdom. As a pastor, God placed you there for the advancement of God's kingdom. In business, to deliver others from poverty, lack, and showcase Christ through integrity. Genesis 8:18. God placed us in the teaching ministry to win souls for Christ. Soul winning is the heartbeat of God. God places us pastors to do exploit and advance in God's kingdom. So wherever you find yourself, in business, in marriage, there's a reason why God placed you there. God didn't place you there for decoration. God placed you there for you to fulfill destiny. God placed you there for you to preach the gospel. And so it is vitally important for us to ask this question. Just like Esther, God did not place her in the position by chance. He positioned her to fulfill responsibility. He positioned Esther to fulfill deliverance. He positioned Esther for kingdom impact. And so it is vitally important. Point number 2, how do we respond to the call of divine responsibility, using Esther as a case study? Esther accepted the call even when it was difficult. Esther accepted the call even when it was difficult. Esther knew approaching the king uninvited could cost her death, because there is a law, there's a stipulated law. Before you approach the king, you must be invited. You must be called upon. And what did she do? She went to pray, fast, and said, if I perish, I perish. It was hard. It was difficult, but she accepted it. Please go with me to Luke 9:23. Luke 9:23, I read. And he said, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross